sort of putting parts together, but the parts are a single emotion or a single feeling.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Welcome to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. Today I have Jacob Fleichli. So Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You may know him from such bands as Tractor Kings or what was originally known as Shifficut Cricket.
Yes, that's right.
I love that name. Today we're going to be listening to your song, Already Together, off of the album Code, which was released in 2016 by the Tractor Kings. So without further ado, let's listen to the song.
All right.
I could stay a river all blue. I'll build you a fire and burn for you. We'll ride like lightning or sleep if we want. Never talking of money. Windows are open, my pen's on the floor. If you see me now, I'm not me anymore. I still have memories of places and hell, but next to you, baby, all is well. Yeah, next to you, baby, all is well.
Welcome back. So, of course, my first and favorite question to always ask is, what came first? Was it the music or was it the lyrics?
they came together when I was writing it. So I had my guitar in my hand and a notebook and a pen while I was putting the chords together and writing, which is usually, I think the best songs come out that way, when it just comes out all at once.
So usually you write things simultaneously, but...
Not always, but I think the best songs come simultaneously.
The songs that I feel that came together always come out of what I feel like is this kind of weird need inside to like get something out. And I feel like when those coalesce in that way, it's usually because there's something that you need to kind of explain to either yourself or to other people, or to just get it out there so that it's part of the world. I don't know if you feel that way too, but
yeah, I totally feel that way. And I was thinking about that earlier on the ride out here. You know, a lot of what I'm saying in this song is basically like what I maybe couldn't say in a normal conversation, and I couldn't say it to someone. I could sing it in a song better, and in a song I know how to say things to people, whatever feelings in a song better, I think.
Was this written pretty close to the time that Code came out, or did you write this a long time ago? Because I know that you've played this solo. I've heard this song plenty of times when it's just you. How old is this song?
I wrote this song when my son was about 2 or 3 months. It sort of came as like the music and lyrics, like as a way to sort of reinforce my feelings about this situation. You can't really explain things to a baby, you know, but my son will be 17 this month on the 27th. He knows the song, and, you know, I wrote it for him, and it's about him, you know, and he's heard it and he gets it, and he understands kind of what I was talking about. We've talked about it.
There's something about this song that hits as so very like hopeful, but yet also so longing and so sad. It gives a portrayal of excitement and energy, but at the same time is that the words and also just your delivery makes it feel like tired and worn out, or like you're at the end of your hope. That's one of the things that I like about the sound of the Tractor Kings, is like just that almost a cognitive dissonance, but it's just done so well that
I appreciate that.
I like that. One of the things that strikes me about the lyrics on this is it feels very much like a shifting back and forth between two different things, where it's like, I'm sorry if I'm not able to be there, but I so want to be there. But also, like, as I'm getting the opportunity to be there, I'm also thinking about when I have to leave next and when I can't be there. I had a moment where I kept thinking about the character in this, where it was like this sense of this person couldn't necessarily get themselves to just live in the moment where they're with this person, because it felt like there was that constant fear of like, well, any minute I have to say goodbye, right? I try to get out like my first impressions of like the song like right off the bat, and then kind of see what your reactions are. But
I think that's pretty close. It's more of like a literal thing. When my son was first born, his mom was living with her parents in Wheaton, Illinois. I would go up every weekend to see my son. That was kind of how it had worked out at that point. And so I would go up on Friday and I would come back on Sunday. I would literally, like Friday, I would be extremely happy and glad to be with my son. And then Sunday, when I would get in my car to leave, I'd be crying and bawling because I had to leave, you know, and saying goodbye and then come back. So it's kind of this back and forth, driving from Urbana to Wheaton and back every week. And that's when I wrote that, sort of expressing that, going through that.
What was the first line that you wrote? Was it like right at the beginning, or did you have a line that just kind of was the first thing that just popped out?
Probably the first line. Some of the thoughts might, you know, have been with my son's mom. You know, we were engaged at one point, and then when she got pregnant, she moved back with her parents. You know, things work out for a reason, happen for a reason, you know.
Right.
And at the time, it was really difficult for that separation. Not that you have to write and put every hard feeling in a frame or in a song, but I think in that song there's also a lot of hope and a lot of, I'm leaving, but I'll be back. There's
so many things of imagery that I'm just curious about. I feel like you're trying to explain specific moments that were happening during the time or whatever, because like the ice is gone, the day's all gray, I'll be back tomorrow, although I can't stay. Maybe it's because right now we're in February, right? So it's
my
very
son
much
was born in February, and
okay.
so it was right when he was, when he was born, or a little bit afterwards. I might have hummed the song to him when he was a baby, but I didn't, he wouldn't have understood.
That line, I think, to me, has a weird impact in my brain, because it's the ice is gone, as if it's like it's getting better, but yet it's still, even though like the ice is melted and it's getting warmer, it's still all these gray and cloudy days that they don't necessarily make you feel that much better. And I keep thinking about, the overall feeling of the song is like of that hope and despair, kind of this, like at the same time. I'm just curious about where that came from. Well, you did say that your son was born in February, but I keep thinking about how you write and you put your words together, and if this came out simultaneously, did you set out to write these specific words, or was it something that you started just playing and then the words just kind of fell out, and then when the words have come out, you kind of have this weird like epiphany where you're like, oh my God, that's what this song is about? I don't know if that's, I've had that happen a few times where I'm like, oh, I guess I have more feelings about this than I thought I did.
I wanted to write about this, and a lot of the imagery was like me driving. It's sort of spring is coming along, but maybe there's still like snow on the ground, but the weather's getting better, like it is today almost, I wanted to put these ideas down. When I'm real serious about that process, and when I'm real inspired, I'll probably get my guitar and notebook and pen, and just probably like the chords and that the musical part probably came pretty quickly. It just happened to, when I worked that out, just write down the words and then put it together, and then, okay, 2 lines works with that. Sort of putting parts together, but the parts are a single emotion or a single feeling.
You mentioned Wheaton, you mentioned living in Urbana and driving back and forth every weekend, and I keep thinking about the change of seasons and then also driving on I-57 over and over and over and over and over. I've found some other, like Route 9 is kind of cool if you wanted to like just break it up a little bit, but it's definitely slower. But the thing is like there's that conflict. Sorry if I just imposed that idea of like another thing, but you could either have an interesting drive that's very slow, or you could have a very boring drive that's faster, right?
I agree,
and so you're
totally.
So there's choices being made, you having to drive back and forth to the Chicago suburbs every weekend to make this trip, and it's like 2.5 hours or so like you end up over the weekend, you add another 5 hours, right? Either it's heading out to Hope, you're excited, or driving back that 2.5 hours of like feeling empty again. And I don't know. That's I don't mean to like impose some thoughts on that, but I just like I'm as we've been talking, I've been having those feelings about what you're talking about in this song. So
it kind of happened fast. Like I would come home, I'd feel sad, of course, and then when I'd get home, I'd have to probably go to work on Monday, and then through Friday, I was working at Silver Creek at one point, and then I was working at the blood bank at one point. I would be busy for the week, and then I'd get excited, and excited to see my son.
This song has been in existence for 17 years,
yes,
to a certain extent. You've played this solo, you've played this with Tractor Kings, you have performed this in front of many different people. I'm just curious, how has this song actually changed as you've played it in front of other people, or do you gain new insights as you play this in front of different people? Because there's sometimes where I'll play the same song that I've played everywhere else, but somehow it just lands differently with a certain crowd or something like that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that those words could have that feeling to them. I don't know if it's just something you feel from the crowd, but I'm just curious how it's changed.
So that song isn't currently in the set list that the current version of Tractor Kings is doing. We haven't played that in a long time. I may have played it in the past couple of years for like a solo set, although I can't remember the last time I played it. But I do feel that if people are paying attention, there's a connection with the listener on that. Right. I can kind of tell. But it's been a while since I played that song. The set list we have for the shows coming up with the Tractor Kings, there's about 3 or 4 that are somewhat new, and then there's like songs that are older, and then there's songs that are really old. We're kind of doing it's like they're all over the place, and it's not really necessarily my favorite songs, but sort of like everybody's favorite songs. But I'd have to pick this one out just because I feel like I got what I was trying to say about the situation. I kind of got down on this one. And I feel like I've done that on a few other songs. Sometimes the words are like cohesive, from the first line to the last, and I'll have the same thought. It doesn't skip around like mentally or whatever.
When you brought this song to the rest of the Tractor Kings, do you say like, I'm hearing this drum beat, or I'm hearing this on the slide guitar and I would like to hear this on the bass? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to sing it and play it, and then y'all can kind of pick whatever you want to add to it? Or I'm just curious how much you guide or either let them just free form in some ways.
The guys that are playing on that, they just kind of played whatever. And any of the guys, I would never say do this or that. They would just kind of play their part. I've never really asked anybody to play anything specific. People bring their own. What they bring is a big part of what's going on, Right. So the musicians playing on it are a big part of the sound, and so I just kind of been really fortunate and been lucky with the people I'm playing with.
This is the first track on the album, and one of the things that kind of strikes me is that at the very beginning, it's this, I don't want to say harsh, but it's like this distorted guitar comes in, and it kind of gives this impression of what the song's going to be, and then all of a sudden it turns around and then it's got a nice little country groove going, and I just think that I'm curious about that choice of an intro when this is the beginning of the album, and then you're going into something that it's kind of a misdirect. In my opinion, it feels like a little misdirect, which I'm nothing wrong with that, but I was just curious about that decision, or how did that come about?
I think that's Jonathan Davidson, who's an amazing guitar player. And when he would play whatever, the slide on that and the other guitar, it was so good, we'd never really question it or say, oh no, let's try that a different way. He was always on it. Just by our friendship, he could kind of tell where I was coming from in a way. And so he could sort of, like, I've thought about him and how he's an amazing guitar player. And I think he can really sort of get inside your head, maybe not necessarily consciously or intentionally, but he can translate that into the guitar or into what he's playing, which is really amazing and ideal, really.
I mean, I know that the Tractor Kings have had some rotation in terms of members, but it's been around long enough that you've worked with different people. It's interesting to have that kind of trust with your own songs to get people to respond and create those songs with you. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I always find that just these are things that you have created that you're trying to convey a certain thing. This is something that's very personal to you. The ability to trust that people will do the right thing musically, and in a weird way, kind of like, it's almost like having your own chorus, like people that you're saying, hey, I'm singing with this voice, but I need you to emphasize what I'm trying to portray. Tractor King's been around 30 years, 30 something, maybe. Sorry, I didn't mean to drop that on you.
No, it's I think 98 was our first year with Rebecca Rory. Tractor Kings started out just her and I. And
okay.
So her and I were the original Tractor Kings.
I see.
And that
came
from Shifficut Cricket. So with Rebecca, we were very close. Different guys over would become really close, and it's to move on with different members is difficult, and for different reasons. I couldn't do this make this sound without my friends and the people that play on this and the people I know and have been lucky to play with. And I feel more fortunate than ever right now.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to tell you now what my favorite part of the song is, and then I'm going to ask you what yours is. And I wanted to say, I think my favorite part is the breakdown, and then it goes into the acoustic, and then you have the backing vocals that are doubling what you're doing. And as that sound level drops, it really brings out what's happening vocally. So it's that line of, I wish I could stay a river all blue. I'll build you a fire and burn it for you. I don't know. I just feel like there's such a sense of connection, and I want to say like an intimate connection where you're very, very close. And I wish I could do everything I could to stay by you and be like on this calm, peaceful river. And then, but also, you know, if you wanted me to build a fire, I'd do it. I'd make it just for you. And it's like this sense of like commitment and peace or whatever. Like, I would do anything for you, but I don't know if I could do everything for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
Circumstances don't always allow me to do that. And so it's a very beautiful part, and it's also a very heartbreaking part. I don't know. Sometimes I get that sense of like, this was before you had told me that this was talking about your child. I was thinking of it in terms of relationship, and I kept thinking about like, sometimes love just isn't enough. Sometimes love isn't enough to save things. So to me, it kind of broke my heart just listening to that part. So in a sad sort of way, that is my favorite part of the song.
Thanks.
So.
It's like that part, and I when the music drops out, sort of like I said before, like reinforcing my feelings from my boy, being able to say it and then recording it, and then it's, you know, it'll live on. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But I feel like the recording of it, we were playing it a lot, and I think we recorded it a couple different times. And the first couple of years of my son's life, I was going back and forth a lot. I lived in Chicago for a while at one point. Then I came back down here and would go back up for the weekend. Things were happening real fast, you know, and we had different recordings. To say that the recording on this recording isn't my favorite recording of the song is kind of being a little picky. I feel that the best version of this song isn't the one that we're listening to. I really enjoy this version and the musicianship on it. All the versions that we recorded were the same musicians. I just think we were in a little bit of a hurry to do this. In between the third and fourth verse, there's so the third verse, when the music comes out, drops out, and the fourth verse, when the music comes in and I'm singing, I feel like there could have been a musical point without, you know, in between that. And that's usually the formula that I go with. I don't know, most of my songs, sort of like 3 verses, and then like a guitar solo, and then the last verse, or some kind of solo, you know, non-vocal thing. And I remember Andy Davidson, he would laugh, he heard this, and I might be throwing him under the bus a little bit. Sorry, Andy. Love you, bro. He was helping with the decisions of that recording, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted just to go right into the fourth verse. So that's the way we ended up keeping it on the record. And looking back, I think it needed that. Now sounds real finicky, you know, and it's just one of those things that Andy was trying to go off of the formula, you know, and move it around, which is fine, and I was up for. And that's kind of what part of the trust is. I honestly don't know. It'd be hard to imagine how many people would really notice the difference, you know, because the lyrics are there and the feeling is there. So that musical interlude, who knows if that is just something in my mind or something that makes a difference to the listener.
I don't mean to like say that the listener doesn't matter, because obviously they do. However, and not to throw anybody else under the bus, but also it's okay for it to be the way that you want it to be in some ways too. Like, I think, and it may not make any difference in the world, but it would make a difference to you.
We had some shows with the 4 of us and the guys I was just talking about. I remember we played this bar that isn't there anymore on Main Street in Champaign, next door to the High Dive.
Yes. It used to be the Candy Kitchen, but then it was...
it used to be Cinzanos, I believe, at one point. But it was next to the High Dive, and they had shows for a long time. I can't remember the name. And we played that group that at the time, I remember we had some amazing shows there. And when we'd play that song, it was just like so good. And I think, maybe in my mind, those were the times when that song was the most powerful, when we were doing it live, Yeah. So, but you can't have everything, so.
Yeah, you're talking about the place that would serve them in the mason jars, right? Isn't that the one?
I don't remember that.
Okay,
maybe.
But I'm totally picturing it. But it's
so you walk in and there's a bar on the right.
Yep.
And then the bar ends, and then you go back and there's a stage, and there's like mirrors in the back.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're, but I'm like, I can't remember the name. And was it?
It was a play,
I mean, was it Main Street or something like that?
Possibly. I remember
something on Main. No,
we played there with the Fights, and we played there with the Bashful Young'uns. I was
totally at that show too. Damn.
Do you remember those shows?
Yeah. Okay, oh yeah. No, that was a great
a cool venue at the time. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So of course the venue we were thinking of was Memphis on Main. I don't know what that is. I just don't want to have stuff disappear, because being a venue is important. Yes. And we'll get into that in the second section, but I'm just curious, is that your favorite part, or did you have another favorite part that you wanted?
Well, I think all those parts combined, that make up the song, I love it as a whole. We put it on this album first because sometimes the strongest song you want to put on first,
Right.
So that's what we did, and it comes out of the gates strong, but hopefully not too strong. Maybe coming out of the gates as strong is good in horse racing, but not always in music.
I feel like it was a strategic move too, that it was followed with "I Want to Stay," and so it felt like you were using it to kind of lead on into like a story or kind of a response, or like give more context to this initial song by throwing in "I Want to Stay" like right after it. So
that's the same kind of probably, thinking about my son. It's always been on the front of my mind since he was born. He's always been the first thing, At that time, being new, that was like probably all I was. I mean, that wasn't all I was thinking about, but definitely a new world had opened up for me and started.
Why did you pick this song as the song you wanted to talk about today?
When the question was asked, a song that I want to, bring next to me, like I'm proud of it. It's like bringing it with me to the interview. There's an extra seat for it in the front seat or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's like space to bring it and talk about it, remember it, and it sticks out for me. It's like an accomplishment. It's like a self-accomplishment.
Sure.
I don't know if it was an accomplishment in anyone else's mind, but for me, it was like an accomplishment. I haven't forgotten about that. I don't feel necessarily that way about all the songs I've written.
No matter what happens in the rest of your life, he will remain your son.
It's like a timeless sort of thing.
The nature of your relationship may change, but I think that element will remain the same, because you'll want to, you want to spend time, and you don't want to miss out on spending time. So.
Yeah, I think it was probably when he was maybe 13 or 14, and he had heard the song, and he told me how much he liked it, and he got it. That was kind of a full circle. Like I wrote it for him, and then he got it later. So that's maybe why it's so important to me. And I don't know if important is the right word, but why it sticks out for me.
Champaign is also a Band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening. Located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Welcome back. So, Jake, what is your favorite Champaign-Urbana music venue, past or present?
There's different places for different reasons, and I don't know if that's an okay answer.
Absolutely. Let's hear them.
Well, so I used to do sound at the Cowboy Monkey, and I really liked doing, as a sound engineer, I liked that room.
Yeah.
The old Blind Pig room. As a musician, it wasn't my favorite place to play, unless it was like packed, which maybe. So I love that room doing sound, but playing there, not so much. As far as playing, man, that's tough. We used to play a lot of shows at Mike and Molly's, which was great, and that was a fun place. But, I'm thinking back more, like, I'd say now, Loose Cobra, for sure, is my favorite place in Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
But thinking back before, there was Mike and Molly's and Cowboy Monkey and the High Dive, which I didn't like. As a musician and a sound engineer, I didn't like it, but brought big acts in it. So
you could appreciate the fact that the High Dive was able to get big acts. You still could have a pretty intimate feeling show, which I appreciated.
The patio at Mike and Molly's would sound great, outdoors. Mm-hmm. So I think at different times in different rooms, whoever was doing sound or the band could adjust. So in a room like upstairs at Mike and Molly's, which isn't an ideal place to have a show, there would still be great shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of like you get a certain vibe. But I'd say now, I'd say my favorite place is Loose Cobra. But I don't really go out too much anymore as far as venues and things like that. That's kind of tough to say.
The day that this comes out, on the 20th of February, you're going to be playing at the Loose Cobra with Alan Epley.
Yes.
And Alan Epley's project is called what?
What project we're playing with is just Alan Epley. It's it's a sort of a country, maybe shoegaze. There's a lap steel player. And it's really cool. I don't know if you know Alan.
Did you say it was like shoegaze country?
A little bit, yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure. Yeah. And then I think the day after, aren't you playing? You said you're going to be playing at Fitzgerald's.
We are playing at Fitzgerald's.
Do we determine where that is?
I believe it's Berwyn, which is just right outside of Chicago.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I've been there several times. I think it's on Roosevelt Road in Berwyn, right off of I-90, if I'm right.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's. Yeah. Well, anyway,
so
just
it's exciting. We're real excited to be doing that.
And that's going to be as the Tractor Kings.
Yes.
So full band, both locations.
Nights, yep.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Well, so if you're listening to this the day that it gets released, be sure to swing by the Loose Cobra that evening on that Friday, and then stop by Fitzgerald's. Make a trip out of it. Go both locations. Check them out.
I've done the drive many times. It's not that bad.
That's true.
If you're listening from Chicago, come on by.
You mentioned the Loose Cobra as one of your favorite venues. What is it about the Loose Cobra that makes it your favorite venue?
Matt Talbot running it and being the owner and the boss it makes it really fun for me. I feel like I'm kind of like in his house or something, or I'm in his living room when I'm there. He's got a lot of records and a record player, and I really love that. For someone like me who doesn't drink, I can go over and play records and kind of hang around and walk around a little bit, go outside.
He doesn't spare any expense on getting good sound equipment for that area.
A lot of the bands Matt has get really loud, I really like that.
During the summer or spring or whatever, he'll have it set up for outdoors, which the sound there is absolutely amazing as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were to go into the Loose Cobra just by first impressions, you would possibly miss out on some really great experiences. Being able to watch a show there, just grab a drink there, or do whatever you wanted to do there, and just being able to just find the most random records there, and just throw them on and just be like, okay, it's just an experience that you wouldn't necessarily think that you would get in, Tolono, Illinois.
I feel lucky. It's like normal for me, so I think people, I don't appreciate it as much as people that have come there for the first time, maybe, or come from out of town. They're like, man, these days in my life, it's more listening to music at home.
Yeah.
And collecting records is kind of, I enjoy doing that, maybe more than going out.
Things may have changed, at least for you currently, in terms of whether you go out often or not, but I still think that being a part of the music scene probably hasn't changed. Like, what do you think makes a good music scene?
I think having a lot of musicians in a small area like Champaign-Urbana, people that want to play on a small level, or doesn't really, just want to play.
Right.
That's why I moved here, and that's why I probably still live here, is to get something going, to get like really awesome musicians is not too difficult around here to get together and play a show.
I do think that one of the things that's always remarkable about this area is that there are so many people that are pretty high caliber musicians that are just like, yeah, sure, let's play. I think about all the people that I've known and seen performing around, and it's not really this hierarchical kind of, sometimes there is some of that, but I feel like nobody's I don't want to play with this musician because, they're not of my caliber or whatever. It's like, let's just do something. Let's create something. And I feel like there's this wonderful willingness to play together and like, let's create something that nobody's heard before. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's really unique about this area.
There's a lot of people that are willing. Joel Spencer, who's playing bass with Tractor Kings now, we've been friends for a long time, and he works over at the library, and I just said, hey Joel, what are you doing? And we work on stuff, and I would consider him like one of the best players I could think of, or and so it just so happens that he lives here and works at the library, and it's just kind of how it is around here.
Not 30 years, but let's say in 25 years or whatever that you've been here, like, and performed and been part of Tractor Kings. Have you thought about how the scene has changed from when you first started to now? And do you think it's getting better, or do you think like we could still be doing some improvements?
I think there could be improvements, but I think that Rose Bowl is doing great. We're playing there on the 18th of April, opening for the Silos, by the way, just throwing that in there. I feel like, and maybe this isn't me getting out enough, that it's like, and maybe you could help me out, that there's Rose Bowl and Loose Cobra, and then it's like, where else is there? I know, Kayla has shows over at Fire Doll and
in the Space,
of course, the Space. Yeah, that's the other. Put the Space in there with the Rose Bowl and with Loose Cobra.
Gallery Art Bar.
Yep,
it's good. Mm-hmm. That's the ones that I'm hearing about. And Exile on Main Street still hosts shows. Mm-hmm. We all know that it's very difficult to be a venue, especially if you're going to focus on being a music venue. It doesn't necessarily always pay the bills. You really got to care, to have a space. I wish there was a way that it could be more, not profitable, but like sustainable.
Yeah, there seems to be kind of a disconnect with venues and artists. But, like Matt is a musician. Same with the guys at Rose Bowl, Martin and Charlie, they're musicians.
Right.
And Carrie is a musician. So I kind of know what's going on, and I think that helps to be a musician at a venue. I think a lot of places where, you go to a bar and the owner is on vacation or something like that, like on a boat somewhere, or I don't know, a plane.
Sure. But I know where you're headed with that, where the actual owner isn't necessarily invested in their own
it's just
venue.
There's places you play where it's the liquor sales are more important than the musicians.
Yeah.
I try to stay oblivious to that if I can, you know.
Yeah.
And just play music. That being said, I feel like it wasn't always that, but when I was younger, maybe I didn't pay attention to things like, you know, maybe being drunk too. You don't pay attention, you know. It's like you're young and drunk is it was a bad combination. It's like Dumb and Dumber, you know. When I was young, I'd play anywhere, and didn't matter who was the venue. I never really thought about like who owns it or who or cared. I guess like when I think of my younger self in this town, it was like as a musician, things were happening so fast. I wasn't putting a lot of thought into it. I was just like doing it. And now I think there's more thought into it as I'm older, and maybe to be more conscious of what I'm doing or thoughtful. But it seems like to be in the moment and not be aware of anything other than what you're doing in the music is kind of like what it's about. And I think I was probably able to do that more when I was young, because I had more time to spend playing music, you know. It's like all I did. For the music scene, I think youth is important, and yeah, there's tons of great musicians in this town. Whatever the scene is what's happening now and what's coming up, what's scheduled to happen, as opposed to what happened in the past. You know, it's like that sort of doesn't exist anymore other than in memories, which is important to some level, but we want to point ahead, you know. So the past is important, but the growth of the scene is important too, and not putting it in a, you know, like cementing it and make it into a statue. This was music in the 90s or music in the early 2000s or music in the 80s. It's just musicians and music trying to do their thing, and this is a great environment to do it. This is like the middle of the country. Memphis is sort of like the middle of the country, or, you know, like St. Louis, and this is a town where you don't, you know, even, you know, like Sedoris or Tolono or Savoy, Champaign-Urbana, Rantoul even, like, you can live cheap and get it together. And my son's a musician. He's got a band with his friends. He lives in Savannah, and the music scene there seems to be more kind of goth, which is kind of crazy. But
I would never have guessed that. Okay, cool.
And like the record store, Grave Face is kind of like, Savannah is like a goth kind of vibe to it. But in here, it's sort of like the middle of the country. So you get all these, it's like the melting pot.
Yeah.
And cheap rent. There's no rules. There's nothing to follow, you know, like, as far as like bands, you know, you can sort of be into whatever you're into and be a musician, express yourself. I'm sure you understand how that is.
Sure. There's
been so many musicians. Just talking about Angie Heaton as a person, you know, and then I was like driving out here, shuffling through my music, and I come across her album. And it's like it's a great album. I'd put it up there with any great country record.
Rumor Mill or
Rumor
Let
Mill.
It Ride?
Rumor Mill.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite records, and it's like Bob Watson plays on that. He's another guy in town. He could be on, you know, any professional recording, you know, he's on that level. At the same time, I could hit him up on Facebook or call him and say, hey, Bob, do you want to get together and do a couple shows? And he'd probably make time, and that's how it is. People are willing, and it's not just me, you know. Say I just came into town, I was working on some songs, and I was kind of wanting to meet some pedal steel. You know, there's Bob Watson, there's Dyke Corson, there's Clayton Deering, there's Jerry over at Court. You know, this is such a great town for, I mean, who would think that you could find a handful of pedal steel players. Right. Nick Stein has been playing the pedal steel, and he's getting really, I mean, he's going to keep getting better. Clayton's going to keep getting better. Bob is going to keep, you know what I mean? It's just like these guys are to come to this town now and show up and be like, wow. So I think right now is a great time.
Champaign is Also a Band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. So, Jake, what is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
I was thinking about this. There's two things I want to mention. I enjoy driving and video games. Now, video games I enjoy for many different reasons. While I'm playing video games, I turn the volume down and have music playing. So it is kind of a musical thing. Now, certain friends of mine that have come over, they're also really into video games, have to have the volume on, like my friend James in Chicago. He would come over and we'd play Nintendo, and I'd turn the sound down and put on music. He's like, what are you doing? He'd have to have the sound on.
Sure.
But when I was younger, like, 10, 11 years old, living in Springfield, and my friend Joe would come over, we'd play Nintendo. It's like 86, 87. We'd turn the volume down and listen to Bruce Springsteen and U2. Those are like my favorite. Just over and over.
Yeah.
That's how we did it. And that's how I continue to do it. There's a lot of different clips on YouTube or social media or whatever, and like you see people that talk about meditation or something, or, like the silence within or things like that. And I've maybe when you're sleeping, like I want to have music playing all the time. I've tried to be silent with myself, and I kind of understand what they're talking about, but I like to connect to something outside of myself like that. I don't know if you play video games.
I play video games that are like, now I play, well, the last thing that I did that was new was like on the Nintendo Wii. And now I pretty much I found this nice little emulator that does like classic Sega Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, kind of all in that era that you're talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Honestly, this all started because I was like, I haven't played like the original Nintendo Castlevania like forever.
It's great.
And I was like, I gotta play that again. I just got it. And I'm like, the original Mega Man. I was like, I remember playing that a lot, and I want to do that again. And so I was just like, I started seeking in all these different. I was like, even Mario Brothers, I wanted to play again, and I was like, maybe I can. So I chased those all down, and then I found this emulator that just has so many. But
the original Castlevania, you have, when you get the cross that has the boomerang effect, comes back to you. That's one of my favorite parts of that game. And I wish that was the weapon that you could keep through the whole game. The whip is good, throwing the sword is good.
Yeah,
but there's nothing like the cross boomerang.
Yeah, I was also like, wait, what's the other thing? And it's like a throwing.
The chemical.
The chemical, but also like the throwing axe, but it's like an arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That'll help you out of that'll get you through it.
Well, that's for like the bad. There's one where it works perfect for the bad guys, but other than that, it's pretty useless. But if you're just beginning to listen, this is Castlevania Hour. But no,
Konami.
That is one of my favorites for sure. Do you like playing games from that era, or are you like some modern?
I do.
Ones
I like games from all the way back to like Pong from the 70s. And growing up in the 80s, all the Asteroids and Pac-Man, and growing up, like as a little kid, go to Showbiz Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese, and there's like, Pac-Man and Dig Dug. So, growing up in the 80s and arcades, and then when I got my first Nintendo, it was like, that was sort of the end of arcades, because that was like, the home system became really, really good, and all your friends would come over. And so, you know what I mean? Like Christmas was like cold out. So you didn't, like hang out inside. And so you'd stay in. So for me, like playing video games was like therapy, in the wintertime. As I got older, I would go back to my Nintendo, like Tetris and games like that, racing games and Millipede. And it would be like, I would play it for hours and hours and hours when something was bothering me. Then when my son was born, as he grew older, he got into video games. And I fell in love with video games again. And then I kind of stepped into the 3D world of what's happening now with like the N64 and the Wii and the Switch. And I had my own Switch. So I like Nintendo. I've never had an Xbox. I've never had a PlayStation, and I've never wanted to. And there was a guy that used to play pedal steel with Bob Dylan, Bucky Baxter, and he said that he doesn't ride motorcycles. He rides Harley Davidsons. And I've heard that before. And I say, with the exception of like, in the 80s when it was like arcade games, I would say I don't like video games. I like Nintendo games. I feel like Xbox and PlayStation is sort of like some kind of training to work for the man. It's part of the machine, like Xbox, like the machine, like PlayStation is the machine, and like Nintendo is fantasy world. I don't want to be connected to the things in this reality, like PlayStation, Xbox games. Like, man, this new game looks so real. I don't really want it to look real.
If you are playing something that's a little bit more realistic and you're, shooting the bad guys, it has a certain feeling of like you're maybe really hurting real people and you're problem solving by that kind of violence. But if it's in the cartoony world, it's kind of like you're solving a problem in a way that doesn't affect anything, but you're solving a problem. So like if you're stressed out about something, you can, I don't know. It's like, it's a great way to like detach briefly from the world to be able to get kind of a reset. I don't know. That's what I always feel
for sure. I like that. And also like for me, the game Smash Brothers, I can take out a lot of like, stress and like anxiety in certain games. It's like after I'm done, I'm like, whew, that felt good, like to get that out. That is extremely therapeutic. And for me, like when Mario is, in that world where you're like going up and you can use different weapons like fireballs against your enemy or just leaping on top of them or something like that, or air kick. I'd prefer that than to like be like a first person shooter going straight against my enemy with a realistic like gun. It's like I never would like that,
Right. Yeah.
I so it's not like I have to be specific about video games, and that's why I say that.
Yeah. No, I mean,
because I think that it's like, there's a lot of there's a person I know that was talking about how they like to get a lot of angst out by you playing a game on their phone where they're just going around and, shooting people and blowing up people. And it's like, it's not like I would judge that person, but for me personally, it's like, It seems too real. It's too close to reality. I'd rather be in the Mushroom Kingdom.
You're right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You hop on somebody, and that's how you defeat them, rather than like pew, with a
AK-47.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't even know what an AK-47. I've never held one.
Well, it's the 47th model of the AKs.
Really?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. You could. I don't know.
It's one more than the AK-46.
I don't know about anything about weapons. You know what I mean?
Same.
I don't really want to know.
Yeah.
I guess with video games comes weapons.
Yeah.
And we don't need any more weapons in this world, I don't think.
It's true.
When words can become weapons is enough, that's hurtful enough, let alone actual weapons.
Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your song Already Together, the Champaign-Urbana music scene, your upcoming shows, and of course, your favorite non-musical things. So I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Jake Fleichli reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live.
It's a wrap.
Champagne is also a band.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio South Beaker on the inside.
With coffee, talking about one of my favorite things, when you first get it, it's a little too hot to you know what I mean, to drink. And then at this point, it gets a little bit too cold, but then there's a sweet spot. So when I'm driving and I have my coffee, it's like I'm listening to music, and I really like that about my job. I can listen to music and I have coffee, and then there's that point where it's like just warm enough, hot enough, but not where it's going to like burn your lips. And it's just such a comforting moment, you know, that I feel grateful to be alive, you know.